Hey, what up, world? Excuse me. Real quick, just wanted to give a real big thank you to everyone who's been watching all of our videos, our or us, meaning me and my wife. Um, it means more than you ever know. I know how much content it is out in the internet, Facebook, YouTube, everything else. So for anybody who's taking the time out to watch our videos, because some of them are really long. We really do appreciate it. I just wanted to say that, get that out the way, and tell you guys to stay tuned on that because there will be more to come. Um, this video, though, this video is specific to someone I actually met a little bit earlier this year. Shout out to Jarrell for introducing me to these people. Girl named Nelly that actually has a podcast with another guy named Corey. Corey, what's up? Uh, Go check them out. Look at their page. It's called Are You Open? That's their name of their podcast. But Nelly, I follow her on Facebook, and she actually ended up putting up an interesting stat in reference to God, and I can't remember exactly what it said. I actually put a picture up so you can read it for yourself. But it said something about when does God become real to you? Like personalized to you or whatever. And it kind of brought me back to a very specific moment in my life to where I made a video literally on that same exact question actually. And it was funny and interesting that she said it because I was going to like kind of just give her an answer, but I realized like me just doing that, it wouldn't have given, I wouldn't have been able to explain it just typing it out like I did in that video. So I kind of just wanted to make a video, and I told her I would. Just wanted to make a video on exactly what she asked, the end of her question was, help others believe. Maybe it can help other people believe, or, if not, it'll just be an explanation as to when it became real to me. Um, Disclaimer, because this isn't the video. Like, I'm actually going to share the video that I shot back in 2016. So, couple disclaimers. One, I was chubby or fat or whatever you want to call it. If you're looking at the video and it don't really look like me, or it does look like me, but I look all swollen in the face like I've been eating biscuits, or I look like Music Soul Child in the face, whatever the case is, I was a lot bigger. Well, not a lot bigger, but I was bigger back in 2016. It's only 2 years ago. Just wanted to get that out there. The video is also old. I actually was using my phone to shoot it, and it was like a Note 5 or something like that. So the quality of it probably won't be as good, so sorry for that. But I really didn't want to shoot a new video because I didn't feel like a new video, like me speaking about it now, I don't feel like it would have given what it felt like to give that information out then, because I literally was going through it at that specific time. So I don't want to try to relive something that I was actually living and had a chance and opportunity and was wise enough to shoot then. And also, the reason I shoot videos now is back in that video. So that was kind of like the start of me deciding to even do what I do now, which is speak in front of a camera. You are going to hear references to a woman that I'm speaking on. Now, the woman that I'm speaking on in that video is not my wife. And it's also not anybody that I spoke on previously. So if you hear certain things in the video where I'm speaking on a woman, that's because I shot a video prior to that video where I spoke specifically on a specific woman, and it pushed me into shooting that God video that I'm going to release now with you. So if it becomes kind of fuzzy just for a little bit, I apologize for that, but there was a video before that, and if you guys really want to hear that video or see that video, let me know. I'll release that one too. But you're going to hear stuff about a woman, and I didn't release her name or anything like that. I won't do that, but that's where that's coming from. Everything else that I speak about on that video, because I was going through a lot of stuff at that specific time, you can already find out and see for yourself. That was on Unsaid Volume 1, which was a poem that I shot way back when, I think last year, July or August or something like that, where it kind of started the whole Unsaid series and Unsaid moments and everything else. It started that whole idea. So a lot of the stuff I was going through actually was in that. And again, it ties into this video that I'm about to share. And Easter egg. Now, I don't know if everybody knows what Easter egg is in the sense of, like, I'm a gamer, so Easter egg kind of means something to just look out for. I want you guys to kind of, when you're watching the video, just take a look at the background. I really can't say too much more than that, but as you're watching the video, and certain times when I'm speaking on this video, just take a look at the background. I thought it was like the dopest thing. I mean, I obviously knew what it was, but I just think it was the dopest thing while I was shooting the video, the specific time that I was talking about specific things in that video, how the background looked, or what might have happened in the background at that specific moment. So I hope you guys enjoy. More to come on everything from Unsaid to Marriage Chronicles to everything that we're doing. So, stay tuned for that. As for this video, comment, like, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed already to Truthfully Speaking, which is the YouTube channel, but also check us out on Facebook, Christopher Hunnit Jackson, if you don't know already. I'll let my wife do all her social media stuff or whatever when she's back in front of the camera. So just hit share, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right.
So after speaking on the last video, I kind of wanted to tie in how God played a part in the whole scenario with the last video. Basically, I think what happened was with the girl situation, it ended up being a kind of like a tipping point. Again, if you've seen the other videos with everything else that's been going on in my life, that point of me dealing with her and the whole little broken heart scenario, it kind of basically just was like a tipping point to where complete, almost like meltdown, I guess you can say, to where, I think a lot of the tears, even though some of them were directed towards what me and her were dealing with or getting over, the rest was pretty much just from everywhere. It's kind of like taking a whole bunch of L's within a short amount of time, and then they eventually just kind of like consuming you in a sense. So I fell into like a real bad state of I don't know if you want to call it depression or just like being really down and out, trying to figure out like what's next or whatever. Now, if you know me before, or I'll just explain it now. Normally, how I am by default, I normally do everything by myself. Everything meaning everything. I try to do as much as possible by myself. I rarely ask for help. It's not a pride issue as much as one might think, or an ego thing. It's really just how it's always been. I didn't have too many people in my corner from the gate besides, my mom, my sister. Initially, there wasn't too many people in my corner, so I kind of just put that chip on my shoulder to say, okay, I don't want to burden my mom all the time with asking her things or asking for her help or even coming to speak to her about certain things. And, my sister, and even now that I have friends who I'm pretty sure are more willing to help out and speak their mind and, help out any way they can, just being true friends, I just still never asked for help. So, with everything that was going on, and me getting to that point to where, I just was really about to lose it. And just to segue real quick, to hop out of what I'm about to speak on, when it comes to religion and God, I spoke on it a little bit in the last videos. It's not that I don't think that God exists. I definitely do. I definitely believe that there is a higher being watching over all of us. So I know I kind of came off, or I'm possibly coming off as someone who just doesn't believe in God. That's not the case. But I do have certain questions about his existence and our existence as well that I feel that can't necessarily be answered by just opening the Bible. Here's why. And this is just my brain, just my logic on how I think. So, again, this is not knocking nobody for their faith or however they view religion and God and everything else. This is just before what I'm about to speak on. This is how I thought. Excuse me, something's in my throat. So basically, how I think is, I'm a man, right? And men all around, women all around, whatever the case is, we're all flawed. And that's how I think. I look at every person for who they are and I say, okay, well, we all have flaws. And if we all have flaws, and men living even back in those days had flaws, it was hard for me to believe that that there were anointed ones that would write this book that we will all attempt to live our lives by. Because again, I know my flaw and my imperfections, so it's kind of hard to believe that the words in the Bible are perfect or the standard by which we should live our life, no matter who may have spiritually touched those people to speak on the words that they spoke. So I basically felt the Bible was invalid because certain questions that I may have, if you ever talk to, I don't know, a deacon, a preacher, or whoever, you ever talk to them, or anybody who's spiritual, you ever talk to them about certain questions like, okay, well, why are we here? And, I feel like we're here and Adam and Eve were supposed to do exactly what they may have done to get us where we are now. And it wasn't supposed to go any differently because, it went the way it went. And the world is bad and everything else. Like, it's supposed to go this way. So why is the Bible saying that it really wasn't, and this, that, and the third? And what that person would normally do is they go right to the Bible and they refer to certain scriptures and they would say, well, this is why. This is why life is the way it is and it's not supposed to be this way, so forth and so on. So the way I felt was, if I'm questioning the Bible and everything in it, or just certain things in it, but I'll just use it as a whole. So if I'm questioning the Bible and everything in it, how can you then go to the Bible to give me an answer? I basically just made that whole book invalid by my question, and not by the Bible really being invalid, but by my question, and I just made it invalid. It's kind of, the way I look at it is kind of like when someone asks you to define a question or define a word, and you try to use that word in the definition. You can't. You're supposed to, if you can really define the word, you're supposed to be able to define it using other words that'll still give me a better understanding of that word. And that's just kind of how I viewed it before. So again, it wasn't that I questioned, him as a being. I kind of just questioned things that took place in life in general, not just mine, and just, how things are now. I kind of just questioned it all. So it was kind of like, I believe that if you have a faith, and you're a religious person and you're spiritual, whatever the case may be, to have faith to me is have like a totality of a belief in one thing, whether it be God or whatever you believe in. To me, it's to have the whole totality of it. Even if, by definition, faith is kind of like a lack of evidence. Again, not coming at the Bible, but that's basically what faith is to kind of almost have like a lack of 100% evidence. But that's where faith comes in. You believe it. You feel that this is what you're supposed to believe in moving forward. So, I feel that that's how people view religion and everything else. Mine had like some doubt in it, to where it's like, yeah, I believe God exists and I believe he's for us and everything else, but mine's had self-doubt or not self-doubt, but there was doubt within my faith, if you want to call it that, which kind of didn't let me believe wholeheartedly, like others most likely do. So jumping back into the story, when it got to that point where I was like, all right, well, I'm trying to do everything by myself. I was trying to figure out why I kept losing, which I couldn't put it together before. And this the whole, with all the stories and everything else that I spoke on, the whole thing probably timeline wise probably like a little over 2 years or so, or around 2 years. So every time like something would happen to me and I would feel like, well, dang, I'm losing, or something's going on, I couldn't figure out for the life of me, what I was doing wrong. Because that's how I think. Like, I always internalize everything when something's wrong or something bad happened. I kind of internalize it to see if, it's something that I'm doing that I need to fix. Because I feel that that's a focal point in moving forward. To progress, you have to check inward. So I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'm being positive. And these are things that I told myself. Stay positive, trust the process, work hard, you'll get out of whatever it is that comes your way. And I really just couldn't figure it out. I was like, all right, well, something's up. So one day after, I think, crying, whatever the case is, just down and out, something told me to pray. Didn't know what it was. And it's not that I didn't pray before, but again, my prayers even were kind of like cookie cutter. So where, I think sometimes just humans in general, you pray for the same things over and over again. You kind of don't really put as much, and I'm speaking for me, I don't know about everybody else, but you kind of don't put as much thought in the prayers you more than likely should. It should be coming from the heart, but sometimes you just, pray for the same old things just to get by, or whatever the case is, and that's kind of how my prayers were before. This one was different, so where I kind of just felt like, all right, well, I gotta pray because something's up, something's wrong, and really what I was praying for initially was just to figure out what was wrong. Like I was trying to figure out where the disconnect was in my life to where I couldn't move forward. So basically, how I would pray, not to give you the prayer, but basically how I would pray is I kind of, it's kind of spoken on that God can read your thoughts and everything else. So it'll be a silent prayer. I'll just close my eyes and just kind of speak on what I needed or thanked them for. Because a lot of times the prayer was in thank you format, but just things that I may have needed going forward, whatever the case is. So I tried that, and it didn't work. When I initially started doing it, just silently praying, all of a sudden I couldn't do it, so I stopped. And again, I started tearing up and everything else. So I sat there for a second, and I said, "No, I gotta speak this. I gotta verbally get this out. Whatever. Never done that before." So I sat there for probably like a minute or so, and then I decided to try again. So I said, "Okay, well, let me just try to speak this out." So I closed my eyes, and I start off praying and verbally, and I got probably about 4 words in. I had to stop. Now I'm really, really like crying, whatever the case is, and here's why. I'm crying because I didn't know how much it takes to pray that way, to speak to someone or being, I don't know if you want to call him someone, but to speak to a being, know that he exists, know that for that time being, he's actually listening to you. I didn't know how much humility it took to do that, to come to him and just speak to him in the way that I was now speaking to him, because again, I never done that before. So I was crying because, still feeling broken and everything else, but just whatever strength I had to muster up to do that, I never knew I had to do that. I kind of took that for granted, when I see other people, my mom prays, whatever the case is, and it seems like she does it like effortless, to where she just does it. So, I kind of took that for granted and was like, all right, well, shouldn't be that hard. Let me just speak out what I'm feeling, whatever the case is. It wasn't the case for me. It really took a lot out of me. So I sat there for like another minute. And then I said, okay, well, let me just try. Let me just start it, and hopefully from there, whatever will happen. So, that's what I did. I started all over again. And when I started to pray this time, I didn't stop. And I basically, within the prayer, I kind of just started asking for help. It became a prayer of just complete transparency. Not that he didn't already know what was going on in my life, but just complete transparency. Me just basically, instead of trying to do it all alone, I think this was kind of like the first time I realized, like, you can't. And me trying to figure out what was going on and praying to God to find out what I was missing, I was actually getting it while praying. I was realizing that this is what I was missing, to speak to God in that format and just for once take all the weight off my own shoulders and say, I can't do it alone. Even though that's what I've been used to before. Sorry, the sun's kind of getting in the way, but even though I was used to doing that before, I kind of just I realized that I couldn't do it this time. So I kind of just asked for his help from here going forward. I really needed something else to come to my aid, because this was the first time that things just were too much to bear to put on my own shoulders and try to walk with. So, after doing that, and I'm telling you, I cried through that whole prayer. Like, I literally cried through the whole thing. But while doing so, I think the cool part of it was, while praying, I want to say that my faith was, strengthened just a little bit. I don't want to get up here and start acting like holier than thou or whatever, because it's not the case. Never mind the rosary. I just kind of just like the chain. It doesn't really mean, what it may mean for some people. But my faith was strengthened because at that point I knew I was talking to someone. At that point I knew that someone was listening. So if I ever had any doubt about him really being there or really caring or really listening to me specifically or whatever, that all was negated right then and there. I knew for a fact that he was there listening to me ask for his help. So that was a humbling experience as well, but that also was kind of insightful. It kind of let me know right then and there, right at that one spot. It was like, okay, well, he's real. He exists because, I feel it. Like it's again, with faith, it's something that you feel. I felt it at that moment. Once the prayer was over, not to say that I was all happy about life or whatever the case is, because that's still not the case. But one thing that happened was I developed a plan right then and there. Like soon as the prayer was done, like part of the things I asked for was just like strength to stay positive and all the negativity that was coming my way, but just the strength to keep on going and not want to quit and whatever the case. Right then and there, right after the prayer was over, I got that strength. I got up, stopped the tears, whatever the case is, went to work. But as I'm going to work, I started to develop a plan, part of it being this video, to speak out and say, how I feel, to get these feelings out instead of letting them consume me like they normally do, but also a plan to get out of some of the things that's just going on financially, whatever the case, that was holding me down. I want to develop a plan that wasn't just spur of the moment, something that I can just, knock out right away, but a realistic plan to where it was feasible for me to get out of some of the things that I was into with debt and everything else. So knowing that came, immediately after praying, it's hard for me, and I can't speak for everyone who may not have even gotten to that point where they need to speak to God, but that was my point in knowing, okay, not only is he real, he's helping immediately, and I understand that God does have a plan for everybody. I do understand that time-wise, as humans, we kind of, when we pray, we're kind of just like, all right, we need it to happen right away. We need it to, whatever the case is, like, God, I'm coming to you on Tuesday. By Wednesday, I expect change. Us as humans, sometimes we kind of fall into that trap of thinking that things are just going to turn around right away, not realizing that, that sometimes it's a process. And for me, because I can only speak for me, the process was me learning throughout all of the so-called losing that was happening in my life. I learned a lot about myself, just knowing what I can endure now, as opposed to just thinking I'm strong and knowing I'm strong. It's two different things. So just knowing some of the things that I was able to endure within the past couple of years. He helped me believe that. Like, he helped me to actually not even believe, but realize that. Even with the last situation with the girl that so-called broke my heart. I look at that whole process because, again, a lot of the religion talk and stuff I was speaking on with her, and everything I just told you about how before I used to think of God and everything else, she heard me say to her. So I actually think, when I'm speaking to her about not having like full faith and a totality of believing certain things about religion and everything else, I was speaking to him too. I was speaking to God too, and God heard that. And I don't know if this was his whole plan, but within that scenario of me dealing with her and her, I don't even want to keep saying breaking my heart, because it makes it seem make her seem so bad, and that's not and tension. But that scenario happening, and that just being the last straw, like that being the tipping point of the glass or whatever, that made me want to come to him. It was when I realized that it was dope, because it was like, okay, well, this is this was all a plan. Like, this was all a part of something. This wasn't just me speaking for no random reason. Like, that whole situation, I was supposed to learn something. That's exactly what I did. So, going forward, that wasn't just a one-time pray thing. Prayed to him the next day, cried again. But what I realized when I was looking at my mom and how she prays, and it just seems so easy for her to do, what I realized is the more you come to him, the easier it gets to come to him sincerely, and to speak your prayers, as opposed to just kind of give you the cookie cutter prayer that you may be used to doing. The more you do it, it still takes humility, but at the same time, it gets easier to where now I can speak to him and not bawl out crying or whatever, but just speak to him and express how much I need his help, as well as what I'm thankful for, realizing that what I now have and what I'm learning throughout the process, or whatever the case is. So, to anybody, I'm kind of speaking to the people who aren't religious. I think everybody who has a faith in God, I think they kind of already know. This was me realizing it. I'm pretty sure that that most people already knew all this information. It was just, the whole thing was kind of just for me to realize what it takes and what it means to have faith in God. So, just speaking to anybody who may not feel that way, who may have felt how I initially felt about God, or whatever the case is, I invite you to do it. If you believe in God in any way, that may not be 100%. I invite you to do it. I invite you to one day, and it might not be now. You might have to reach some sort of rock bottom, or whatever the case is. But at some point, I invite you to kind of just pray, and not just pray like you normally may pray, or if you never prayed before. Start off however you start off, but I invite you to try it, and you might be surprised as to how it goes. I can't say that you're going to feel how I felt or realize what I may realize, right away, or whatever the case is. That's your relationship with God. But I invite you to try it, because you will realize that it's no joke. It's not as easy, or it's not something that you can just think that just happens because you see other people do it and you just think there's nothing that's going to come out of it. Something comes out of it. Time wise, I can't speak on, but something comes out of it, and if you do it from your heart, you will realize certain things. So, just going forward, that's what I plan on doing throughout the whole process. When I make more videos, whatever the case is, I might touch on certain checkpoints in my life that most likely will be progression, because from here on out, that's where I'm going. But anything else I can touch on faith wise, I will do so from here on out, because that's how I'm moving now. Again, not to I don't want to come off like all of a sudden I'm going to start going to like the church or to the Kingdom Hall, which is like Jehovah's Witnesses version of it, or anything like that. Like, I don't want to come off like all of a sudden I'm born new. But at the same time, I do feel like spiritually I'm moving in a different path than I was before, when I was trying to just put it all on my shoulders and wasn't getting the results that initially I was getting with, being progressive. Everything was to kind of like turning against me, and I wasn't getting the results that I was used to getting with doing things myself, and I realized that I can now. So, just going forward, that's kind of how I want to move. This kind of ends this therapy session. I will, again, speak on other things, because there's a lot of stuff going on in my brain, but I kind of just wanted to tie in the God aspect of it, because again, that's the point where I knew that he was real, and that there was no doubt in him. And from this point on, if I want better for myself, for my family, whoever I may pray for, it's better to kind of walk with him, as opposed to think that you have as much control over your life as you think you do. So that's what I kind of want to just push to everybody. feel how you may feel about it, speak on it, comment on it, whatever the case is. But you know, that was my realization that there is a God, and He's real. He's you know, you may not see Him, but that's the point of faith. He's real, just like when you don't see it, but you darn sure feel it. It's the same thing when it comes to God. So you know, I kind of just thank you guys for listening, and just be on the lookout for the next videos.